right, babe, tell us about yourself.
I'll be very happy to. I think I have to tell you that my life is very easy to understand. It's in three separate parts: education, entrepreneur, and philanthropy. Education. I'm a Tacoma-born person. I was born in the Tacoma General Hospital. I went to Lowell, Mason, Stadium, and UPS when it was CPS, and when tuition was $200 a year. And gasoline was 18 cents a gallon. At that time, I bought a car for $15. In 1928 Oakland, I wish I'd kept it. While I was going to UPS, CPS at the time, I had 3 jobs. These were Depression years. That's why the prices were very low, but it was very, very hard to get a job. At that time, I had 3 jobs. I worked Mondays and Saturdays at Leeds, which was a very popular shoe store. At that time, men sold the shoes. Women were not allowed to sell shoes. Women sold the hosiery. If a man sold a purse, and the purses were $3.99 to $5.99, if they sold a purse, they would get a dime. If a woman sold the same purse, she would get a nickel. That was the times at that time. People have fought for improvement, and I think we're here today to represent women and the possibilities of being able to do wonderful things. At that time, when a salesman sold a pair of shoes, he didn't take them to the cashier, he took them to the hosiery counter. And while the customer was there, we would have samples, and we would put our hand in a stocking and show her the right color to buy to go with the shoes. That's before nylons and before pantyhose. The stockings were 89 cents a pair, and if you sold one pair to a customer, you'd get a penny. If you sold 2 to the same customer, you'd get 3 cents. If you sold the whole box, you'd get a nickel. That's where I learned how to sell. If you couldn't sell, you didn't have a job. And there's a line waiting around the block to get that job away from you. At that time, I sold millinery at People's Store, and then I had an NYA job, which was a government National Youth Administration job. We worked from 5 to 9, 3 days a week for $15 a month. That was the rate at that time, and it was acceptable because everything cost less. The family, my father had a store in downtown Tacoma, ladies' ready-to-wear store, and had done very well. During the Depression, he lost the store, lost his home, and he lost his health. My mother went to work at Rhodes Brothers for $13 a week, and very carefully, they saved about $350 over a 2-year period. A store became available on 13th and Broadway, where the financial building is today, and my father said, if you were to quit school, maybe we could start to get on our feet again. At that time, you didn't question your parents. You did it. But I did it liking it. I liked the idea of it. At any rate, it turned out I loved retail. You love it or you hate it. It's very demanding, but a job for anybody should be pleasant. Then going to work is fun, and it's not a chore. I started out with a store on 13th and Broadway with 12 coats, 12 dresses, and 1 month's rent. Every time I sold one item, I would replace it, and then after a while I realized I was getting nowhere. I had more merchandise in the window than I had in the store. I took a bus ride to Los Angeles, stayed with an aunt, and I went into the market, which was totally foreign to me. I said, I'm young, I was 19, it was unusual for a girl, a woman, even to be in retail at that time. I said, I'm young, but I need help. And I picked up a few blouses here and a few coats there and dresses, and that was the beginning of Lyons Apparel. From that store, on 13th and Broadway, I went across the street where the American Art is now. Then I went to the Tacoma Mall. When I went to the Tacoma Mall, I was so proud. That was a big, big move. And I knew I'd never be able to fill that store with merchandise. And when I had it built, I had a third of it blocked off. Within 6 months, the wall came down. we were in action. We had a terrific location, and that was the beginning of a little small chain. From there, went to South Center, Northgate, whatever. Ended up in 1984, sold out. We had 15 stores that ranged from Eugene, Oregon, to Spokane, downtown Spokane, Northtown Spokane, Yakima, and that was the end for retail. Now, I'm wondering, what am I going to do with my life? I had sold, I had taught people how to sell, I was a buyer, I was a manager, I was an owner, I had done everything that could be done in retail. And I said to my friend, Hazel Farber, who had Leroy Jewelers, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. She said, you just wait. One door after another is going to open for you, and you're going to have a new life. And that's exactly what happened. I was asked to be on the board of the Broadway Center for the Performing Arts. I was on it for 23 years. I was asked to be on the board of the Tacoma Community College. This is my 29th year. Next year, they'll be celebrating 50 years. And next year, thank you. Next year, they're going to have a big celebration because the school will be 50 years old, and next year will be my 30th year on the board. I'm doing the same thing now I did 20 years ago, raising money. Why am I raising it? To help people have a new life. My paycheck is not in dollars and cents. People love me because I come free, but in my retirement, I have made millions, but I've given it all away.
Oh, babe, thank you. Thank you so much. Let's give Babe a round of applause. So, Babe, I want to ask you, you mentioned some different people in that story, from your father to an aunt,
yes,
to Hazel Faber. And if you could name one person who has mentored you the most or had the most profound influence upon you, who would it be?
Do you know that I was asked that question, and I'm prepared for you asking me the question, and I can honestly say there wasn't anyone. I can honestly say I always had encouragement from my parents. They thought whatever I did was wonderful, but I never had a person that really sparked me to get going. It was just a trend of the times. These were lean years, and you made things work. And I think probably the best lesson that I can tell anyone that might be young and getting started, if you go on a project, go on it with a positive attitude, and if it takes longer to do it than you thought it would take, it's okay. It's okay. If you see, when I'm telling you about my life, it's very obvious. You can see I have staying power. If I make a decision, I stick with it. I've become very involved with public art, and those are really hard to get to fly in Tacoma, Washington. They're not too artistically in love with public art.
You had fabulous parents that just seemed
Good
like
parents,
encouraged
absolutely.
you. Absolutely. So when you look at this life that you've had of yours, what negative bump or what roadblock occurred to you that you never ever thought, babe, that you would get through, that you just thought, I can't do this?
Okay.
So how'd you get through it, and then what inner resources helped you get through it?
Okay, I'll tell you what happened after I was married. I was very happily married. I had a terrific husband, and he came into the business about 8 years after I had started it. He had just graduated from NYU in accounting, and the first thing he told me was that I had too much insurance for the amount of goods that I had, so I canceled it. Within a 2-week period, a customer left a cigarette burning in the back fitting room, and I was wiped out. The entire inventory was burnt. I had a coat inventory of one-sleeved coats, and we sold them. At any rate, on the way, we taught people how to make a coat out of a coat with one sleeve. You do these things when you're trying to make things go. It's different. Things were not always easy, but you made it like a fun thing and something that's acceptable. The night that I was called, when the fire was happening, I tripped and fell, and I was pregnant at that time. And at any rate, we had to clean up and take care of our obligation because the merchandise that we had received that day, and there was a lot of it, was not insured. So we had to sell our home in order to get the down payment back so that we could pay for the merchandise that was not insured. That's like paying on a dead horse. that's reality, and that was my bump in the road.
And babe, you stayed married to this man.
Yes.
That's the moral to the story.
I love that man, and
I
he
love
loved me.
that.
He was
Yes,
a
he
terrific
does.
man.
So you've mentioned a lot of great advice for young people starting a project. And this last question for you, which I want a real quick bullet answer from you. Don't think too much about it. Just whatever your heart tells you is, what did nurturing mean to you, and what will it mean to the next generation?
What?
Nurturing. What does nurturing mean to you, to be nurtured?
Helping things along.
Yes.
What kind of advice I could give someone for
Yes.
helping things along? I think I've already said it. I think it's important to do whatever you like to do. There's no right or wrong. Pick out what you like to do and enjoy doing it. It will not feel like work. I couldn't wait for every day to begin. I loved retail. It's very demanding. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It's a 7-day-a-week job. But I loved it, and I did well. At any rate, I was very lucky. Tacoma was very good to me. I had a wonderful husband. I had 2 good children, which I'm very proud of. I have 3 terrific grandchildren, and who could ask for any more? And I was married 60 years to the same man, which is pretty
There
good.
we go. Babe, thank you so very much for sharing your story and for being so transparent and so endearing to us. And now I'm going
Thank
to
you.
invite you just to sit back and relax
Thank you
and
very
let the rest
much.
of our sisters here tell their stories.